We're looking at the control transmitter again. In the last video, we talked about defeating the ratchet on the throttle and adjusting the tension so it would sit where you want it, as well as what to do with the lithium battery in the back here, because they've changed, like I mentioned last video, I think it was about a year ago or so now, they changed from the AA tray that was in there, got rid of that, and now you have to get a lithium battery to put inside there, and you use the balance leads to connect it. So this video, we are going to talk about creating models. The thing you need to do before that, though, of course, is turn the transmitter on, which shouldn't be that big of a deal, but a thing that kind of gets people a little bit is you can't just, on the newer models, you can't just hit the on button and have them come on. So as you can see, this one's already on. So I'm going to press this. You have to long press it, until it goes there, shut down. Now you can turn it off. Now yours, you're going to have to long press this for it to come on. But again, mine, I bought when these first came out, and they didn't have that feature, if you want to call it that precautionary feature that you couldn't just accidentally turn them on. I like mine better, but I can just tap it and it comes on. You will have to long press those. This is my FreeSky X-Lite controller. This is more like what I was talking about. I have to long press and then it comes on, and then long press to turn it off. Then what we want to do first here is get the model, this, created in here. And what that means is that this has to get connected in some form or another to this. It's not just that you plug a battery in and it automatically does a search and finds it. You have to tell it that this particular one is the one that I should be connected to, as opposed to some other one that's out there flying. So here, here you get this other little guy flying around, and you turn this thing on and it just goes, oh, I'm going to auto connect. Doesn't connect to this one, but it connects to this one, and now all of a sudden you just start flying your friend's drone all over the place. And while that might be interesting, that's not what we want to have happen. So the operation is that you create first kind of a folder, if you will, a placeholder in here. Give it a name, and you kind of tell it, you know, what sticks and switches are going to do certain things, sort of, kind of. And inside of that, after that's done and created, then there'll be a spot that you navigate to that you say connect, which in this lingo they call it bind. In order to do this, though, you do have to typically plug this in, give it power, and classically this button that you might see on top here, you would have to hold this in while you gave it power and then hit the bind button on here. It's almost a two-person job. So you do that, you get it bound, and then after that you can fly it. But what's nice about this, the whole model creation, going back to the past a little bit, is that if you did have multiple models here and you wanted to bring them all out to the field and fly, well, you would do the bind operation, which in the older days actually involved a jumper wire instead of a push button, and you would bind to your airplane, and then you would fly it. Then you say, I want to fly the other one. Well, you didn't have models, you just had a radio and you bound it. So you'd have to put this one down, then you grab your other one, and then you would bind to that, and then you'd fly. So that's the benefit here, is that you can have many models. For example, look here. You can see on my screen, I've got a handful of different drones in here, and all I have to do is just select any one of these to be able to change to it. So that's the reason we like this. So when you first get this, it's going to have just Model 1 written in the top. What I want you to do, though, is scroll down. So here, if I say scroll, I'm talking about this wheel right here. Scroll down to an empty spot, and we need to get into there. Okay, now it's designed to be, the idea is to be fairly ergonomic, and I would say that it is. If you just put your hand here, you could roll and scroll around. I have seen some people go, okay, and they start doing this and pushing buttons like this, right? Just know that you're supposed to be able to do this pretty easily like so. So in my case, I'm going to scroll down here to number 17, and this is the enter button. So this here is a button, you just press it, right? And it's going to pop up and it's going to say create model, restore model. So we want to create a new model in that section. So you hit that, loading model, and now I have model 17 right here. A couple things I want to show you. One is, look, there's model 17. The other thing is this asterisk. If you look right there, you can see that that is now, as soon as I made this model, that showed up. What that means is this is the model you're working with. You need to make sure before you hit any of these buttons to try to affect anything in this spot here that you're actually on it, that that asterisk is right there. So then let's say I want to fly my plane right here. So I would scroll up to plane, hit enter, that's pressing this button here, and then I could select the model. Now what you're going to see is that's going to move the asterisk from here up to plane. And so that means I've now selected that. If the plane and this transmitter were already bound, then I could just go ahead and turn the thing on and fly away. If I want to get into that model and I want to make some edits to it, if I were to hit page, for example, it says model name plane, 2 of 12 pages, I'm now in that setting. I'm editing that. I'm in kind of the edit window. So I hit escape, or exit actually, and back out here, and now I'm at the front screen. If I want to get back to that menu system, I hit the menu right here, the 3, some people call it the hamburger, but you hit this, and now I'm back to here again. And as you see, the plane is selected. So what ends up happening, the reason I'm telling you this is because you say, okay, model 17, that's the one I want to do. So I'm going to go ahead and hit page, and wait a minute, it's not called plane. I've just went into the plane because the asterisk is next to that. So exit out of here, hit the menu button here, get back to this window, get to your model, and then press this. Once you press that, now you can hit select, and other things happen. Let me get past this for a second, and then you can see. There's now we're selecting model 17 again, okay? So that is the first thing you want to do. You create a model and you make sure that it's selected. Now, let's deal with that thing that just happened. So I'll pick a new one here, and then I'll change back to model 17. I'll select it, and I get some warnings. This is something that we're going to talk about and potentially change inside the settings here in a second. So this is telling me, first off, the throttle is not, it's up. It says not idle, but it's not off. So did you notice, by the way, I flicked that up so you can tell that was on purpose, right? They want, and this is very, very smart, they want to make sure that your throttle is down before you turn on or go fly your quad, because you don't want to just plug into it and have it take off. Now also notice as soon as I brought it back down, then it beeped again and it changed to fail-safe warning. So now there's another warning saying that we have not set a fail-safe in the quad, and that is what the quad is going to do if it starts to or loses connection between this and the receiver. So you're flying along, you start to lose connection. What should it do? Should it just hold its course and keep going? Should it maybe try to land if it has that capability, or should it just drop out of the sky? So that's fail-safe. That's more conversation because this has something to do, more to do with the fail-safe that is inside the flight control board rather than this right here. More on that in a different video. So I'm going to press any key to get past that, and now we're back at this window again. Okay? Now I'm going to do that again because I was expecting another error and it didn't pop up because I just happened to have some things maybe in the position they're supposed to be in. Go back to model 17, select it, throttle warning, down, that's what I wanted to see. Switch warning, you got some problems with switches. See, I hit this and that and this and that. Oh, I must have got the magic buttons. Now I get fail-safe warning, any key to continue. Those are the 3 warnings that typically come or can come up on a brand new transmitter. The throttle warning that I was mentioning, that's important. We care about that one a lot. The switch warning from a quad point of view, don't care about. The fail-safe warning, we also don't generally care about. So for now, we'll let that be. All the different, the reason why I say we don't care about those things, we'll run into that in a moment. So we need to get into model 17 because one thing I'd like to do is change its name. So I'll go here and I'll hit page, right? Trying to do that so you can see. So it doesn't have a model name, and if it doesn't have a model name, then it just calls it model and then some number. So what you do is just kind of like old cell phones, you hit enter on this, and then you get one cursor, and then you can scroll up and down and you can change its name. Okay, so then you press enter, and then it goes to the next one, and you scroll it, and you get to what you want, and you hit it, and you hit it, and I guess we'll just make up something. Now what I do want to show you though is if you want to do a capital letter, you long press it, and then it will go to capitals. Okay, so this is HCFB. Sure. All right, I wasn't happy with that name, so I went ahead and changed it. On the topic of names, though, they kind of don't matter maybe in a way, but you probably want to name it, you know, something like 3-inch, whatever. But say this is a VX145 HDLRC frame, right? So that's a whole pile of crud right there. But I might have more of these. I might have a couple different frames that I build up, and that doesn't, it's not as, you know, definitive to me which one is which. So you might do like, it's under here somewhere, but like DC01 or, you know, RC02 or something. Give it some kind of a name that on the quad, so when you pick it up, you know which model it correlates to. Then to simplify this whole process, let me tell you, there are two things we need to do here. Primarily, we need to bind to the guy, which is up in there somewhere. And then the other thing we need to do is set up our switches. So the switches, these guys back here, currently they don't do anything. Now, what does do in this case actually mean? What do we want these things to do? Well, when I flick a switch, I want my drone to do something. Well, the do portion of that is here inside the flight control board. And this is something we're going to deal with later when we get into beta flight. The software that works in conjunction with the firmware that's on the flight control board inside there. This is half the story. So these switches again back here, they, if I were to flick this, nothing happens. But if I set it the way we're going to in a minute, when I flick the switch, then the radio here will come on and it will begin to transmit a code. You could think of it as a frequency, but it's more of a code that's going out to this guy, okay? But again, at that point, nothing really is happening yet as far as our drone is concerned. That's the other part that I'm talking about in the software. But before we can get there, we've got to set the switches up. So that's what we're going to go to next, and then we'll deal with binding in a different video. So if I scroll through here, I just want to kind of show you, you can look through this. As long as you don't go poking around too much and changing things, then you're probably okay. But if you keep scrolling down, we've got a lot of stuff on here. Pre-flight checks, checklist, T warning, S warning, all that stuff. We're going to come back to that in a second. There's that fail-safe word we saw. And then right now we're back to model name. So this thing cycles around. Knowing that it cycles around, then you could know that it could also go backwards. Okay, so that's kind of handy to know because we need to, well, we wouldn't want to. We don't need to, right? But we want to turn off some of those warnings that we saw in the beginning. So here's our fail-safe, and if I keep scrolling backwards, I'm going backwards now, and there's S warning. That S warning right there is the switch warning, and above it is the throttle warning. We don't want to get rid of the throttle warning. That's a good thing to always be aware of. Down here, the switch warning, it's not an off or an on. It's saying that arrow is saying that all of your different switches, A, B, C, D, and F, there's no E, they need to be in this forward position. Otherwise, you're going to get the switch warning. I was never a big airplane flyer RC guy. And so, but the people that did fly those tell me that it's nice to have all these in a certain position up to know that your flaps are all in a certain way before you just mash the throttle and take off. So that's kind of why they exist. On that note, though, as you're going through a lot of this menu and you're seeing a lot of things in here, keep that in mind. This is not specifically built for drone people, FPV drone people. This is for all of RC land, and a greater portion of this, I feel, is more for aircraft. The aircraft, I feel, I have to say this too, the aircraft classically do not have a flight control board on them, and so they don't have extra things being done by this device. So they have to add extra things into here to control that in the fashion that they'd like. I'll leave it like that. So on S warning, if I just hit the enter button, that arrow goes away. I go to B, I hit the arrow, I hit the arrow, I hit the arrow, I hit the arrow, knock all those away. Then scroll back down here, there's internal RF. By the way, do you see where it says BND? BND right there? That's your bind. That's how you roundaboutly can get it to bind. We want failsafe, and what we're going to do is just change it to no pulses. So this radio, it really won't, if this goes out of range, it's not going to do anything. And that would, until we talk about failsafe, you might not even know what I'm talking about other than what I just mentioned a second ago, but it could seem very dangerous to not have any failsafe set. But again, we've got a flight control board, and that's going to handle the stuff for us. So we set it like that so we don't get the failsafe warning. Now, everything that we've done so far is fairly simple. Make a name and turn off some of the stuff that's yelling at us. This next part with the switches, it's a little bit weird. It's somewhat akin, I guess you'd say, to programming as far as kind of a function is concerned. If I scroll up here, okay, sorry, I don't need to scroll up, but here I am back at the top, model name, and I want you to notice this right here, page 2 of 12. If I hit page, then I go to page 3 of 12, heli setup, some other things that don't have anything to do with us. Flight modes, nothing there. 5 of 12 inputs, this is what we want, and then 6 of 12. So let me just show you this really quick, just so you kind of see where we're going. The inputs, notice throttle, aileron, elevator, rudder. We don't have those, but that's okay. We can go with them because it's more of an attitude. It's more of an attitude, man. It's the attitude of the vehicle rather than actually what the thing is doing. If I hit page again, it's going to go page 6 of 12, and you kind of notice that it looks very much the same. Now I have to keep hitting page to finally get back around. You can't go backwards here. So I get back to page 5 of 12 and explain what's going on. You have this thing called an input, and I liken it to maybe like a variable. It says we're going to create a thing under 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 possibly, and we're going to say that this thing has a name. It's a name, whatever. I used to give them names. I used to call them what they are. Now I just call it A, B, C, D. It doesn't even matter, right? The fact that right there is named throttle, and that's aileron, and that's elle, and that's rud, it doesn't even matter. It could be X, Y, Z. We don't even care. It's the association of this input to the next page that matters. The next page, think of it as the radio, and it's saying that this thing that you named, we're going to give it a name and associate it here to a stick over there. And that's called an input. The next page says, if this input is triggered, I will send out a radio signal. That's the connection, you see? So we're going to come down here, scroll down to input number 5, and you hit enter right there. And then you'll see this. Input name, input, the name, the source, the weight, etc. Right? The name, I don't even worry about that anymore. I know I just said I don't worry about the name, except I use the input as the name, and I'll just go A, and then hit exit, and that's it. Right? There's another thing I want to do here. I'm going to exit out of this so you can see what this looks like back at the other screen, and then we're going to come back in, which will be good because it will show you how to edit a thing that already exists. Hit exit, and now you see I've got throttle, aileron, elevator, rudder, and then I got A. That's an input A. If you put a name, it would be sitting over here. It has zip to do with anything that I care about. So make sure you're here. And now if I want to edit it, before I just hit enter, but now if I hit enter, it just sort of lights up and does nothing really. Long press it. And then this pops up and then you say edit, right? Input A, don't worry about the name. This is what we're after, source. Okay, so you scroll down here to source, and I'm going to zoom out in a second, but just bear with because I want you to have the widest screen to be able to see all this menu. I'm going to reach up here, and I'm going to flick this switch. So this one here is classically for arming. So we flick it up, flick it down. It doesn't really matter right now which direction is which. It's just the fact that we recognize this one as A, we'll say. And then we'll probably do one of these or one of these, and then a couple of these. So here I go. I'm going to flick the switch and watch there. Oh, sorry. Got to hit enter on it. And then it'll start flashing. And then I can flick the switch, and now it says it's switch F. Up, down, up, down. The only thing you might see happen is this is down here, and now there's a little thing up there. That's minus and positive. Flip, that, okay? We don't really care about that exactly, right? Right now, the only thing that's happening is saying that this input known as A is associated to that switch. Not the up, not the down, just the switch, okay? And when you're done, you can hit enter and it'll stop flashing, and that's basically all we need to do. Now I hit exit, exit, back here. Let me do this a little bit quicker. So I go here, hit enter. I did not have to hit edit because there was nothing there. I scroll, oops, hit enter, scroll, scroll, B, enter, down here, oops, I don't want another B, hit exit, come down here, hit enter, it'll start flashing, and then I'm going to hit the switch that I want this one for. I'm going to use this switch right here. I'll explain what that's for later. So I flick it, and now it says switch A. Flick, flick, flick. Here, I'll flick a different switch. B, over here, that's C. Over back where I want it, that's switch A. Hit exit, 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 done. A and B. Okay? This is what I want you guys to do if you're just brand new getting this set up. And you plan on following through the rest of the videos. So I hit this one here, enter, scroll to C, enter, why did I do that? Exit, and then I scroll down here, source max. No, we don't want max. You hit enter, and then what this one's going to be is this one right here, okay? This is a momentary switch. So when you pull it up, let go, it snaps back. This is going to be for our beeper. So that's SH. Then I can hit exit, exit, exit. Scroll down. So now I'll do the next one. Let me zoom out. Okay, the last one I wanted you to be able to see the whole thing that I'm doing here. So I hit this and hit it again, and this one is D. So there's D, hit exit down here, source, enter, and then I reach up and I'm going to use this one right here, and I just flick it, and now that's switch D, exit, 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 and we're back here. You see? A, B, C, D. Don't care about the names. Now let me explain what we're doing with these switches. So this is my kind of setup. You can do whatever you want, and sometimes I even change it. This is just to keep us all on the same page right now, to show you how they work, and then if you decide later that you want to move them around, you are absolutely welcome to do that. This one back here, so this is our arm switch. So I get ready to fly. Later when I set it for a direction, that's ready to go. Oh my God, that's off. Right? So you do what you want to do, but my reasoning has always been flick it up and it's ready to fly. Oh my God, I'm having a problem. That seemed like the quickest, fastest way to do it. So this is for arming. And then this one right here, this is for modes. I feel like I might have mentioned this before in the previous video, but there are different ways that you can fly, that you can be level to earth and stay this way, or you can be in a freestyle mode where you go wherever the heck you want. Well, the nice thing is we've got, that's why I put this on a 3-position switch, so I can be in 3 different types of flight modes with this. So I can be in angle mode, so I'm level to earth, which is great for flying the tiny whoop indoors, especially while you're learning. And then you want to get a little bit, a little bit more aggressive with the thing. You want to try doing some flips. Well, then maybe you'll flip to the middle here, which is horizon mode, which will still level you to earth, but it will not hold you at an angle. Angle mode locks you at a certain angle, and you're not allowed to go past that. Horizon will let you roll over and do flips, but it'll try to flatten you out. So that's kind of interesting. A good next level for training wheels. And then the last one here is rate mode. They'll let you do whatever you want. It's really kind of weird with a tiny whoop inside of a small house, because you'll find that if you leave it at an angle like this, it stays at an angle like that and you start bouncing off the walls. But that's what we're going to do with this one. Then these switches over here, like I said, this one is our momentary switch, and this is going to be for the beeper. Now the beeper, I say it's the beeper, but really we don't have a beeper on here. It's just the motor. So when you hit this, it doesn't turn the motors on. It just moves them a little bit and it makes them squeak. It's interesting. So if you hear it when you turn the quad on, it plays music, it goes and does its little deal, or you did this and it goes beep, 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 beep. That's the motors, which I think is really cool. They're moving them just a little bit so they squeal. And anyways, that's going to help you find it. And then this last one here, we add in for a really cool thing they came out with a while ago, a couple of years ago now, a few years ago, that they call turtle mode in Betaflight. It's called flip over on crash, but it's turtle mode. And we're going to set it, it's a 3-position switch, but we just need 2 of them. And I'll use one position for normal flight and the other one for flip over. It won't, you don't just flick the switch and it goes boop and it flips over. You've got to do a little bit of a deal here to get it to go. But it basically flips the direction of the propellers around, so kind of. So it'll help you flip the quad over, and then when you're ready to go, then you can flick it back and then fly away as you normally were. So it's pretty handy when you lose your quad 100 yards out in a field somewhere and you're upside down, you don't really feel like going walking and trying to find it. All right, so that's what we're doing. That's what these are all for. I'm going to reposition this, get zoomed in, and now we're going to go to page 6 of 12. Now you don't have to get up towards the top or anything. All you have to do is, if you're on page 5 of 12, you're in the editing menu here. Here, just hit page, and you're going to go to 6. And then you scroll down here. You've got 5, 6, 7, and 8 to map back over to the ones on the page 5 on the inputs. But this is ridiculously easy, even more so than the last one. You hit enter here. You ready? And that's it. What about the mix name? I don't even care. Just hit exit. It automatically goes, oh, you're in channel 5. You probably wanted the 5th position input on the other page. Is that true? Well, they didn't even ask. They just did it. And that is exactly what we wanted. That's fine. If you wanted something different, you could. So you scroll down here to to channel 6. You hit that. You hit exit. There you go. You come down here, hit that, hit exit, and we're good. Scroll down here, hit enter, hit exit. You just got to pop in and touch it, and then it's done. What is it? Well, again, this is the section, channels, mixer. I'll tell you in a second about mixer. But this takes the input that we say right here, and if this thing is triggered, then it will send out the radio channel, and now the actual switches will do something, at least that much. Okay. The mixer portion of it, the reason it's mixer is because you could mix different types of switches and sliders together if you wanted to. Classically, somebody might do something like maybe on a plane as you do a roll. As you go to do a roll, the act of doing a roll always causes you to maybe lose a little bit of altitude. So maybe you could mix in with every time you do a roll, it mixes in a little bit of elevator, so it keeps you up in the air without you having to try to manage it yourself. We don't really do that so much. By the way, if I say we don't really do that so much, look around the internet, because I could probably guarantee that there are people that have reasons for lots of different things, and you might want those as well. Then after you've done all this, that's it. So now you can just hit exit, 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 exit till you're back at this main window, and outside of binding, you're just about ready to fly.